Honorable members, the debate on the presidency budget vote, which is budget vote 1, I found it quite spirited and robust in many ways. And at times it was also provocative, but above all, it is a true credit to our democracy. There were times during the budget I felt a bit envious, and I wish I was a member again here. But the Constitution that you all adopted dismisses the President from being a member. So I wish I was a member and could sit at the back there and also shout and howl like others do. Honorable members, it is just a year since the people of our country went to the polls to peacefully participate in elections that brought all of us here to this parliament to represent them. It is through debates such as the one that we've just had, a debate in which elected members participate, where our people are able to measure whether we are up to the tasks that they have given us. Our people, can measure whether we represent and articulate their aspirations and assess whether we are undertaking interventions that will lead to the improvement of their lives. Even as these debates are robust and at times quite insulting, and I want to pause on the insulting part because it's not so much that one worries about that. Any one of you could one day come and stand here and be president. The question is, would you want to be insulted in the way that insults are launched and directed to someone else? And the speaker was quite right. It does speak to the decorum. Because as we debate here, we are watched on the rest of the continent, and we are watched also around the world. And we hardly ever see the type of undecorum behavior that we sometimes see here. So let us think about that as members of parliament. But they are a key marker of the richness and endurance of our democracy. All said and done, what we do here actually defines us and defines our democracy. It has been just over a year since we established the Government of National Unity in our country's democratic history. The GNU, as we call it, made up of 10 political parties with different histories, with different experiences, has continued to hold even as it has had to weather many a storm. There have indeed been disagreements and disputes among GNU members, as you would expect them to be. And yet, despite those differences, the GNU partners have chosen to work together for the common good of all South Africans. It is a government of national unity that we will continue in our mission to drive rapid, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, to create a more just society by tackling some of the huge challenges that our country faces, some of which are a legacy of our past, and some of which are our own doing, but some of which we have to face with a great deal of courage and bravery. We have to reduce the cost of living of our people. We also have to build state capacity and make sure that our state is able to deliver on the promise that we gave our people. And we also have to strengthen our law enforcement agencies as we can see that they are in need of great overhaul. But we also have another overriding task, which is to deepen social cohesion and nation building.
Order. Sorry, Mr. President. Honorable Ronaldo, please mute.
We are still a young nation. Therefore, we have to continue taking care to build this nation. There are those, including in this House, who will assert that democracy does not put food on the table, that the Constitution cannot be worn or be put on anybody's back, and it cannot be driven or lived in. Yet they choose to lose sight of the fact that in the context of democratic backsliding across the world, South Africa stands tall amongst many nations as a country that upholds and protects and advances the rights of our people. We are counted as amongst the few who have the type of constitution that we have that upholds our people's rights, where our people are able to even challenge government and take government to court and hope to win, and at times they win. That is not easily allowed in many other countries, but that is what should make us proud to be South Africans. Yesterday, Honorable Hlophe gave a laundry list of everything that is wrong in this country. We are alive to the many challenges that we face. At the same time, we should not lose sight of the fact that this democracy, only 31 years old, has made great progress in improving the quality of life of its citizens. Not to the level we want, but it has improved the life of its citizens. We still have a long way to go to give our people the type of life that they deserve. Some countries in the world have democracies dating back hundreds of years, and some even thousands of years. Our democracy, by comparison, is still very young. Those who decry the allegedly scant progress that we have made wish us to discount the millions of homes that have been electrified. As one flies across many parts of the world, including our own continent, you actually see that South Africa is able to distinguish itself from many other countries when you fly at night. And you see the electrification that has happened in this country. The clean water that is in our communities where there was once none. And we decry the fact that some of the taps have run dry, but we now are improving the infrastructure that will make sure that those taps and those pipes do have water. We now know what needs to be done. And of course, what remains is that it must be done. Yes, the public housing that we have built for the indigent runs into millions, and the free basic services that we provide to society's most vulnerable is something that we need to take account of. Some wish us to discount the more than 600,000 learners who passed their matric exams last year, the highest recorded pass rate in our country's democratic and, may I say, history. We have done it during this administration. Now, they even wish us to discount the fact that more than 1.2 million young South Africans who are being supported to further their studies by the National Students Financial Aid Scheme. They wish us to discount also the testimony, the brilliant testimony that was delivered here by Honorable Mkutu, who spoke with such eloquence in this House yesterday, exactly where I'm standing. This honorable member told us how he is a direct product of the transformative interventions that this government has taken. And that transformative journey started when he was young, when he was at school, right through his academic life and up to qualifying as an industrial engineer, university graduate. And today he stands as a member of parliament at a very young age. This would have been unheard of. We want many more. Honorable member asks how many. Yes, we want
you've got millions.
We want
to deliver.
all of them.
Order, honorable member.
To have the same opportunity that Honorable Mkutu had. And we are on the path of ensuring that that happens. That critics of our democratic
a long walk to freedom
wish us to ignore, even not pay attention to
Mr.
the fact
President?
that today,
Mr. President, excuse me if you can take a seat. Honorable members on the platform, can you please not interject when the member is on the podium such that you disturb the flow of their speech? Honorable member, what's the point of order?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The honorable member on the virtual platform shows a picture of her wearing her party regalia with the logo on. That is unparliamentary. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. It is indeed on the rules, honorable member. We will address that and we'll address those with the chief whips of various parties. Mr. President, you can proceed.
so our detractors wish us also to disregard and ignore the fact that we've started a process that enables workers to become shareholders in the companies that they work for. This never used to be the case before. What was the case was share options would be given to the top executives of companies, and they would earn enormously big salaries. Now we've started a process where it cascades down to the ordinary workers of our country.
Thank you, EFF.
Can I ask Honorable Member Matthijs to actually refrain? I'm cautioning you. Following that, I would ask the IT to remove you. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, they seem to be quite enjoying what I am saying. So that in itself is good because they are paying attention. We are supposed also to discount the millions of hectares of land that has also been restored to communities and the many beneficiaries who would have chosen that they would rather take cash rather than the land that they were dispossessed of. These are some of the fruits of our young democracy, the self-same democracy that the people of South Africa continue to believe in, have faith in, and expect us to advance in both word and in deed. That the majority of South Africans are committed to the fundamental principles of our Constitution confers a heavy responsibility on all of us and the government of national unity. It imposes that responsibility, and we must make sure that they retain that faith. It requires that we work as a collective to implement our strategic priorities of inclusive growth, job creation, reducing poverty and the high cost of living, and to work together to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state. I can assure the Honorable Mulder that we will not dismiss the proposals put forward by the Freedom Front Plus to ensure that all South Africans progress economically as he said, we will engage with the Freedom Front Plus and take on their proposals and examine them, and we will do so critically. Where we disagree, we will say so. And it does not mean that when we disagree, we are abandoning the key principles of our Constitution. Honorable Mulder referred to the Carnegie Report, which was published in 1939 or so, and he even said 7 years before the National Party won their elections. And this report was inaugurated to look into the problem of the poor whites. And that, I would say, Honorable Mulder, is not a useful guide, because we confront challenges of a democratic South Africa. The findings and the recommendations of the Carnegie Report were influential in the development of apartheid. The commission, that is the Carnegie Report, sought to uplift the conditions of poor whites, but at the expense of black people. At the expense. Now, the issue of poor whites had become a huge problem in the 30s. It had become a huge problem. It was discussed in church, the Dutch Reformed Church. It was discussed in the universities. It was discussed in the state. And it was felt that something had to be done about the problem of poor whites. They could not accept the fact that white people in the urban areas had become part of the proletariat. They couldn't countenance the fact that white people had become poor, like black people. And they even said, we cannot ever see ourselves being equal to these blacks. And they had become poor, Honorable Mulder, as you may recall, because they had been dispossessed of their land. During the Second Anglo-Boer War, Afrikaners in the main really suffered at the brunt of that war. They had become displaced, their land had been dispossessed, and they had become truly poor. But of course, they only focused on themselves and forgot that there were other citizens in the country. So what did they do? Flowing from that report, they then decided that we've got to set up a social welfare system that will advance the interests of white people. And they did. They set up institutions that were aimed at advancing the interests of white people, so that white people should never, ever be at the same level as black people. They inaugurated laws in this parliament, somewhere in this precinct, to make sure that black people are kept at a lower level, because they couldn't see themselves as being equal. The superiority complex was just too huge for them not to want to see white people being ordinary workers. So laws were passed to give them what? Opportunities, so that they could have better outcomes in their lives. There was no separation between opportunity and outcomes. Today, when black people talk about being given opportunities so that their outcomes can be better, this is seen as racist. And this is hypocrisy at its worst. It is. And yet, what was done following the Carnegie Report was itself inherently racist. And what we seek today is to ensure that the disparity between resources devoted to black people and to white people are equalized. You look, for instance, at the school system. The school system for white people was far better than it was for black people. More was spent on social grants, housing, agricultural support, and social services for white people. Please let us not deny that that happened in this country, because we will be lying to ourselves. What we should now do is to say, what are we going to do to correct that imbalance that in some ways, not completely, was kick-started by the Carnegie Report recommendations? Honorable Mulder, the huge racial disparities we see in access to wealth and opportunities in our country were the consequence of the aid that was provided by the state to white people. Now you say, and I forgot your speech because you say it in Afrikaans, you say, ons het dit self gedoen. No, it's not true. White people are where they are because the state helped them. And that is what Carnegie said. They set up the institutions. I find it quite disturbing when someone distorts history, because you cannot distort the history that we had. Now, this is an important discussion, and I welcome the Freedom Fund's willingness to engage in it. Because for us as Black people, it's a very painful history. And you cannot come and stand here and say, nee, ons het dit self gedoen. We were never helped by anyone. The state, through its laws and decisions, did put you all in a much better position. It made sure that you got the land. When you were dispossessed of your land, it was the state that gave you the land. And today, Black people do not have the land, and it is the state that must help them to get that land. So I do look forward to us engaging in this discussion, because we should not distort history, but we should not rewrite our history. Let us acknowledge that progress has been made through our economic empowerment policies. Let us identify the weaknesses that are there, and let us indeed create a bright future. Then DTIC today is playing a key role in retaining the momentum of the investment drive, including leveraging participation in multilateral forums. At the height of the COVID crisis, when South Africa chaired the African Union, we also appointed special envoys from a number of countries on the continent, including our own Trevor Manuel, to mobilize international economic support for the continental response to the pandemic, with significant successes. And the success ranged from being able to raise funding at low interest rates, to raise funding at concessional rates level, but also to have some countries' debt to be forgiven. Investment mobilization is an important area of work for the presidency. It is aligned to the GNU's cardinal priority of inclusive growth and job creation, and central to our country's wider economic diplomacy efforts. We are building partnerships in other areas as well. Last year, the total value of new projects announced by both the public and the private sectors amounted to 454 billion rand, the largest fixed investment in infrastructure in South Africa since 2021. Yesterday, I reflected on South Africa's Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, an investment plan that is aimed at mobilizing finance from a range of public and private sources to support our transition to a low-carbon, inclusive, climate-resilient economy and society. This plan is the outcome of extensive consultations with a range of stakeholders, including communities, including community-based organizations, labor, industry experts, as well as business. The Constitution empowers the President with executive powers to establish commissions of inquiry into any matter of public concern. Yesterday, the Honorable Noluchungu sought to discredit the processes around commissions of inquiry, calling them a waste of money and a waste of time. But as we have demonstrated, such processes can have a profound impact. Think about the revitalization of SARS, the ongoing reform that is going on in our security, state security apparatus, the millions of rands that we have recovered in money and assets that have been seized by our law enforcement authorities in pursuit of those who were implicated in whole-scale state capture. I said yesterday, and I will repeat again, as a country that is committed to the rule of law, the procedural fairness to transparency, we will ensure that the allegations made around corruption in the upper echelons of South Africa Police Service will be fully ventilated in the Commission of Inquiry process. We agree with Honorable Zibi that we cannot squander the enduring belief of South Africans in our democracy, and that this same democracy must deliver accountability, development, and opportunity. This accountability means that all those who are responsible for imperiling the democracy through nefarious acts should face justice. The Presidency, together with the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, plays a central role in advancing our country's foreign policy and also ensures our nation's strategic interests are safeguarded. Through our participation in multilateral platforms, the Presidency articulates and advocates for the advancement of the African agenda and the OAU, or the AU's rather, Agenda 2063. This we do so that we can achieve a just world order. As the Honorable Lamula said yesterday, South Africa is an advocate for the interests of the Global South, in line with our commitment to principled solidarity. That is why the Presidency actively participates in international fora on the most pressing issues facing developing countries, such as rising debt burdens, mobilizing funding for the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, and calling on advanced economies to meet their obligations to support vulnerable countries to raise their own ambition of the climate action. So we cannot, in all honesty, honorable members, argue, as some members did yesterday, that participation in these important platforms is a waste of time. Like any other country in the world, a presidency is the face of the country's foreign policy. The presidency is on the ground engaging also with South Africans and advancing the constitutional imperative of participatory democracy. Through the presidential imbizos that we hold, for example, we are providing a platform for our citizens to engage with their leaders. And when we go with a phalanx of cabinet ministers and deputy cabinet ministers. We're providing an opportunity for our people to articulate their most pressing issues at a local, regional level, so that we can hold elected officials accountable for service delivery. We regard this as a critical tool for taking government to the people, and they also fall within the ambit of Budget 1. The district development model that we introduced is more than a way of reorganizing local government. It should become and is becoming an operating philosophy for all spheres of government, where national, provincial, and local government cooperate and collaborate to drive development. The overall well-being of our citizens is and will be enhanced. The DDM, as we call it, enhances efficiency by having the three spheres of government aligning to planning, budgeting, and implementation to reduce fragmentation, duplication, wastage across government. But its strength is also in being able to mobilize other role players in society. And we have seen this being played out in a number of areas in our country already. And in eThekwini, we have seen the district development model taking full effect, where we have been able to bring together business, labor, community-based organizations, government at both national level, provincial level, and at local level to work together to turn the fortunes of eThekwini around. During the 7th administration, the presidency embarked on a series of engagements with provincial executives on their strategic development priorities and the support required from national government, focusing on the comparative advantages and economic strength of each province. National and provincial governments will work together to align development priorities and cooperate in the best interest of our people. Vote 1, honorable members, is a budget that is in a number of ways exceptional. This is not a budget for the implementation of service delivery, as is the case with other government departments. Rather, this is a budget that will enable coordination, strategic direction, oversight across all departments of government. These are functions that are key to the state functioning effectively. As the apex of government, the presidency ensures that there is alignment, that the national priorities are implemented, and that urgent interventions are implemented in times of crisis, as we have seen during the load shedding crisis that we had, and as we saw during COVID-19 challenges that we had as a country. A vote in support of this budget is about strengthening the nerve center of government itself. Now, Honorable Peterson, hearing you speak, you are here. Hearing you speak yesterday filled me with immeasurable pride. You exuded a great deal of confidence, but more than that, you exuded conviction. Your words standing here were powerful. They were filled with conviction and what you stand for. And at your tender age, you embody the future of this country. You are the voice, Honorable Peterson, not just of your community and constituents, but of the millions of young South Africans who, even amongst our many challenges, are able to see progress, who continue to believe that there is a place in the sun for all of us, and who continue to have that hope. Now, I thank you for that. Young people who dare to invent the future, as the Honorable Mkutu put it yesterday. Nobody in this House disagrees that the challenges we face as a country are immense. Nobody can disagree that we are not nearly as far along the road to the shared future that we all want to see. And yet, who do we serve with our malcontents, our laments, and our defeatism? Do we want to break or do we want to build? As we journey to the national dialogue, where we will face the hard truths and forge a common brighter future, let us take courage from the words of this young patriot who said yesterday that this budget should be a turning point, where words become actions, where plans become progress, where South Africa truly becomes a nation that works for its people. But more importantly, where all of us as public representatives become the true public representatives of our people, advancing the interests of all South Africans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.